It wasn't a temporary energy shock. It wasn't even a policy error. It was the inevitable collision of accumulated debt and the cost of money. When the cost of living rises, while the cost of debt explodes, this is the pincer movement that breaks empires. The pattern is unmistakable. History provides a merciless roadmap. We will look at 3 specific case studies. 3 moments when the immovable object of debt met the unstoppable force of inflation. And we will map them directly to the current data. First, the Roman Empire. The year is 64 AD. Emperor Nero faces a fiscal crisis. The Great Fire has devastated Rome. Rebuilding costs are astronomical. Military loyalty demands higher wages. The treasury is empty. The incentive is survival. Nero chooses the shortcut. He reduces the silver purity of the denarius from 100% to roughly 90%. It seems small, but it sets a precedent. By the crisis of the 3rd century, under Emperor Gallienus, the silver content has collapsed to less than 5%. The currency becomes worthless. Soldiers refuse payment in coin. They demand payment in goods and land. The middle class, the merchants, the clerks holding cash, they are wiped out. Wealth flees the cities for the fortified estates of the countryside. The economy fractures into feudalism. The arithmetic is merciless. You cannot print value. You can only transfer it from the saver to the state. Just like Rome, the Spanish Empire in the 16th and 17th centuries fell into the same seductive trap. King Philip II controls the world. Gold and silver flow from the Americas. But the costs of empire are higher. Perpetual wars in the Netherlands, the Armada against England. The spending outpaces the looting. The crown defaults on its debt 4 times. 1557, 156, 01575, 1596. The influx of silver creates the price revolution. The cost of wheat and castile skyrockets. A peasant family sees their purchasing power evaporate. Wages remain stagnant. The aristocracy buys land. The church hoards assets. The commoner is priced out of existence. The empire looks wealthy on the surface, but the internal rot is total. Productivity collapses. Because speculation pays better than work, the incentive structure is broken. Under these constraints, the rational move is to borrow more, to debase further, to kick the can until the can becomes too heavy to lift, just like Spain. The Weimar Republic provides the most terrifying modern example of this dynamic. In 1914, Germany suspends the gold standard to finance the Great War, betting everything on a swift victory and reparations from the defeated Allies. The gamble fails. By 1919, the new republic is saddled with unpayable war debts and crushing reparations demanded by the Treaty of Versailles. The industrial heartland of the Ruhr is occupied by French troops, demanding payment in hard resources, not paper promises. The government faces a binary choice: impose austerity and risk revolution, or print money to pay the bills. The incentive is political survival. They choose the printing press. The result is not merely inflation. It is the annihilation of the currency. A loaf of bread that cost 160 marks in late 1920 to cost 100 billion marks by late 1923. A university professor finds his entire life savings cannot buy a cup of coffee. The pensioner starves. But note who survives. The industrialists who borrowed heavily to buy factories see their debts wiped out. The farmers who held land and produced food retain their value. The speculator thrives while the saver dies. The middle class is radicalized. Their faith in the system shattered, paving the way for the darkest chapter in human history. The pattern repeats in 7 distinct stages. Stage 1 is the expansion of debt to fund growth or war, creating a false sense of prosperity. Stage 2 is the realization that the debt load is unsustainable at normal interest rates. Stage 3 is the policy response, where the state suppresses interest rates or debases the currency to keep the system solvent. Stage 4 is the emergence of inflation, initially dismissed as transitory or necessary. Stage 5 is the flight to hard assets, where smart capital exits the currency and moves into land, gold, and commodities. Stage 6 is the social fracture, where the gap between asset owners and wage earners becomes insurmountable. Stage 7 is the reset, where the currency is either revalued, replaced, or destroyed. Just like Weimar, current data suggests we are moving deep into the later stages of this cycle. We see the convergence of high sovereign debt levels and stubborn inflation. Central banks are caught in a trap. If they raise rates to fight inflation, they risk crashing the bond market and rendering government debt unserviceable. If they lower rates to save the government, inflation accelerates, and the currency loses credibility. The risk is not just economic, it is structural. Some economic historians note that modern central banks have tools that Nero and Philip II did not. They argue that digital liquidity and global coordination can manage these pressures indefinitely without a collapse. They point to the last decade of low inflation despite high printing as proof that the old rules no longer apply. Here's the key. Those tools do not change the arithmetic. They only alter the timeline. The incentive for the state remains the same, to inflate away the real value of the debt. When interest payments on national debt exceed defense spending, as current estimates range in several major economies, the mathematics of compound interest take over. The rational move for the state is to cap rates and let inflation run hot, effectively transferring wealth from bondholders and wage earners to the sovereign. The resolution historically follows three paths. First is controlled decline, where living standards slowly erode through persistent negative real rates financial repression. That bleeds the saver, slowly over decades. This was the British experience post-1945. Second is chaotic collapse, where the currency is rejected by the public, leading to hyperinflation and a total loss of confidence, as seen in Zimbabwe or Venezuela. Third is a reset and restructure, often involving a return to a hard anchor or a new currency regime, frequently following a period of extreme social stress. The only variable is timing and pain. Subscribe to the channel. Educate yourself on monetary history. Build resilience into your personal economy. Pay attention to the data, not the headlines.